This talk was presented at Google I/O Extended Grand Rapids in 2023.
In 3D graphics, he made the original Doom. Basically, a lot of the progress made in 3D gaming was because of his hard work. When Mr. Carmack talks, I listen. So I wanted to kind of point out this back and forth between him and the student. So the concerned student says, I understand how it's hard to predict how things will be in the next 10 to 15 years, but I'm concerned AI will make my future job obsolete before I even get there. Do you have any thoughts? And Mr. Carmack replies, build full product skills and use the best tools for the job, which today might be hand coding, but later may be AI guided. Software is just a tool to help accomplish something for people. Many programmers never understood that. Keep your eyes on the delivered value. So what he's saying here is, or what I believe he's saying here, as development tasks are offloaded to AI, our focus should turn towards product skills and delivering value to people. So I just want to break down this idea of building product skills. It means focusing on the whole product. So being able to take a step back and kind of put your task list aside and be thinking about how does this affect the end user. Being able to use, test, and give feedback, looking for opportunities to become part of the creative process. It also means, from my experience, learning the language of design. So studying software. Everybody tends to have software that they love, software that drives them crazy. Like, study that, figure out what works and what doesn't and why. Learning proper terms to articulate feedback. So if you're on a team with artists, making sure that you're communicating your ideas properly and using the right words, because I've seen discussions break down simply because people are talking over each other, not using proper terminology. And then be thinking about the user experience as you build systems. So developing with a design mindset requires you to develop your design mindset, but how? So this is a little bit tough. I know that most of us are developers here. We solve problems with math and with logic and reasoning and breakpoints. And design's a little bit nebulous. The creative arts don't quite line up with what we feel we're best at, but it's not that hard. So what I'm going to do is just break this down into 3 areas. I want to demystify design, which is surprisingly instinctual. Design is really just a bunch of rules for getting people to understand how a system works. Design is, we want to solidify terms for concepts you already feel as a user instinctually. We want to work on number 2 is providing quality feedback. So again, making sure that you are testing your software, testing the product, and viewing it as product and not just as tasks that have to be done. And then the concept of staying in my lane. Some people are going to get to the end of this and feel like, you know what? I don't want to even dip my toe in design. Like, it's just too much. I want to focus on what I'm good at. Even by focusing on what you're good at, you can help designers iterate quickly, which is really the key to a great product. I have to take a drink. I'm sorry. Does anybody else work from home? This is the most I've talked in about 10 years. Give me a beer. Demystifying design. So design is simply exposing the systems that you've built using graphics and sound. That's it. So design ensures that the designers will ensure that the user has the proper user interface to tell a system what it should do, make sure that they also have the right information from that system. So a lot of it's just communication between the system and the user. And designers follow the above rules to provide an excellent user experience. So you have experience as a software user, which means that you have insight into the user experience. You may not feel like a designer, but you have something to say about UX. So what's your favorite software? Is it it's an app, perhaps? It's a game? It's a desktop tool? Like, what about it do you find appealing? What works? What doesn't work? Um, are there any special colors they use? Any sounds that you like? All these little things all add up to the user experience, and it's all useful to collect and store for when it comes time to talk about design with your team. Breaking down UI, or UX. So here are just 7 areas that communicate a system to the user. I'm sorry if I keep saying player. I'm used to talking about video games. So breaking down UX to the user, using color, animation, shape, fonts, onboarding, haptic feedback, rumble, and sound. I'm only going to talk about a few of these. So color, very important, informs the user. It's really important in design to try to communicate without using words. Color is great at doing that. Red means something, green means something, because we have natural predispositions to colors. So as coders, do you prefer to write code in dark mode or light mode? Like there's a reason why we like certain things, and it's important to say and make a mental note. I prefer this. I wonder why. So getting curious. Color sets the mood. So color actually has the power to control emotion. You want to pick the right palette for the mood. So warm colors, cool colors, saturated versus desaturated. It all means something. Photo filters use this to great effect. So if you pick up and you take a photo, one of the first things you'll be able to do is swipe left and right and change how you look. Why do we do that? People do it because they want that picture to emote something. Pixar, anybody who watches a Pixar movie knows that they are really good at making you cry. Pixar. Does anybody watch Pixar movies with their kids? It's horrible. Like every single one I end up crying at. My kids are like, "Why are you crying?" Because you're growing up. Darn it. So Pixar uses color scripts. And they take all the words out. It's just imagery, but they use color to figure out what the emotional beat should be for their films. They do it to great effect. It's because color means something. Animation gives life and personality to the UX. It instantly catches the user's attention. Again, this is built into us as humans. Our ancestors would see rustling in the forest and instantly be drawn to it. It doesn't take much movement, but a subtle change in position will instantly catch the user's eye. This can be a velocity applied over delta time. It can be a lerp, flip books. You can hook this up as cycling through images, where the designers can make use of those. One of my favorite situations where I was wowed by design, very simple, but the first time that I put an incorrect password into in Apple or into my Mac, where you put the wrong password in and it just like shakes its head no. It's like, no. Hey, this is horrible. It looks better on the Mac. But just that little animation, that's just a lerp. That's just a 2-second lerp back and forth. And it tells you everything you need to know. It doesn't have to turn red. It doesn't have to say in bold, wrong password. A little shake of the head conveys all the information you need to know. Last thing I'll touch on is onboarding. It's important as a user to recognize when a software is guiding you through a process. So onboard is just the process of leading a new user through the product. We have minutes, if not seconds, to capture a user's attention. We live in an attention economy. You got to be fast and it's got to be great. If the first 10, I have 10 minutes here because that's the video game window that you have, but I'm sure it's even less for other applications. So yeah, the next time that you use some new software, pay attention to how you're onboarding. Again, how do they use color and animation to lead your attention? Do you ever feel lost or frustrated? If you do, why? Did they give you too much text, too much, or too little text? It's a balance that you have to hit. So my suggestion is don't just use software, but study it, analyze it, catalog the best ideas, and always be learning from the greats. So number 2, providing quality feedback. Just a quick do and don't list for feedback. Feedback's an important part of the iteration loop. We'll talk more about iteration later, but It's how you make things great. Like the first time that you create something and use it, it's not going to be that good, but you're going to tweak it, you're going to refine it, and the more you can do that, the better. So make sure to always be testing it. So try to go for a forest to the trees approach where you forget about the tasks, you forget about what it should be, focus on what it is. Don't concern yourself with outstanding tasks. So try to the best of your ability, use proper design terms where applicable, again, so you're communicating properly to your team. Don't just make a list of complaints. They'll get really angry and they won't listen to anything that you have to say ever again. Try to point out the aspects of a project that you enjoy. So if you're using it, and again, if you have a lot of negative feedback, sometimes it works just to like sandwich it between some nice things. So put a couple of positives in there and it'll balance out the negatives. And don't get discouraged if your feedback isn't acted upon, because there's always feedback coming in, and sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, but try your best to become part of the creative process. Are we sure that leadership wants this? So let's take a step back. When you were hired, it was to fill a specific engineering position. They said nothing about any of this. They said nothing about design. They just said nothing about testing for the product. Am I trying to say that you guys should be doing something that's better suited for QA and actual designers? And the answer is yes. I believe that everybody should be thinking about product. I'll point towards a few months ago, there were articles coming out about Mark Zuckerberg wanting employees to use the products that they were working. He was borderline desperate for his developers to pick up these tools that they've been working on and try them. The quote that stuck out to me was, "The simple truth is, if we don't love it, how can we expect our users to love it?" This is a cry for help to pick up what they're working on and try it and view it as a product, not just as a task list. Really quick external feedback sessions. So this is really something more for leadership to plan, but it's always interesting to put your product, whatever you're working on, in the hands of other people. First-time feedback is worth gold. Like, it's so hard to get that first-time experience and really figure out what's working and what's not in that first 10 minutes. If you have kids, give it to them. They're very creative and they're often brutally honest. So you'll know really quickly what works and what doesn't. And what's nice is that with feedback sessions, problems and priorities have a tendency to crystallize. You can see it in somebody's face if they're struggling, and you'll instantly know. You'll be embarrassed, and then you'll turn that embarrassment into a fire to fix it and make it better. So number 3, staying in my lane. This may be too much, I know. Coding is hard enough. Sometimes it's better just to go on lead code and like power through some really tough programming challenges. But because the world of design, it is a creative one. But I think that even with minimal design knowledge, there are many ways you can assist artists to make the best possible product. So building for iteration. Iteration is, again, the key to great products. The more that you can improve a product, the better it'll be. So implement quickly and make sure that you're taking those ideas, getting a new build made, and then getting it out for testers as soon as possible, because what sounds good on paper may not feel good once it's implemented. Expose dials for real-time iteration. What you can do is just build systems where you can bring up a debug menu, tweak colors, tweak speeds and settings in real time, because that real-time iteration, if you can bring iteration down into the sub-seconds versus having to tweak an XML file, reload, test it again, like try to get iteration time to be as quickly as possible. Helping doesn't require expertise. You don't have to become a design expert to benefit from a design expert. From a design mindset. I'm going to get another. So just be listening for opportunities to help your team, see where you can set up A/B testing for them. All you really need is a basic appreciation. So does anybody know the 20-80 rule? Anybody ever heard of that? Where you get this, the 20/80 rule is that with 20% of the effort, you get 80% of the result. So all it really takes is just learn 20% of what a designer would know, and you'll be able to capitalize on that knowledge to build better products. So here's the thrust of this. I want developers to be able to reclaim their spot in the creative process. This is a challenge to leadership. I believe that developers tend to be on the receiving end of creative decisions. So design decisions are made, and then developers are told what to do. This isn't ideal. It results in team fragmentation where you have design versus devs or art versus coders. There's lower excitement for the project because when you're told what to do, it's less exciting than if you actually had a part in coming up with the ideas to implement. And then you're missing out on key insights that you could be getting from your developers. And leadership should always be trying to turn creation into team building. So it's fun. It's fun to come up with ideas. It's fun to brainstorm with your team. So it's an opportunity to make those bonds early in the project. Designers, if there's any designers out there, make sure that you're open to team feedback. Make sure that you're putting yourself out there as a mentor if necessary. I suggest dipping your toe into development because it's always good to know what the other side of the team is doing and how best you can help them. And then challenging ourselves. So developers love a good challenge. We use math, code, and logic to solve big problems. But are we certain that we're solving the biggest problems? So design mindset puts our focus on solving for the best possible product. By stepping back from our comfort zone, we can adopt some powerful new skills. So this wider solution space gives us more tools to solve problems with. So moving forward with confidence, with a design mindset, you'll have the confidence. You have confidence through stronger communication. You'll have confidence through upgraded problem-solving skills, confidence in a skill set that will outgrow advances in AI, and confidence that you'll become a key part of any creative team. So my suggestion, combine your development expertise and design mindset to create the best possible products. Thank you.